Hi there, Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review for you. Going to talk about the new version of the 2011 version of The Thing. There's a new Steelbook that came out. It's a Walmart exclusive, and I got my hands on one, and the story about it is more exciting than the movie, and I'll talk about both. So to me, this was a flawed idea from the get-go. They were doing a prequel to The Thing, but calling it The Thing. Let's just start with that. That's a bad idea. What is the idea with naming things the same thing they were named before? We had Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, Scream 2022, now Scream 6. We have an Evil Dead movie. We had Evil Dead. We had Evil Dead 2. We had Army of Darkness, and we get an Evil Dead. Now we have Evil Dead Rise. At least they did something different with it there. I just don't understand why. Call it, The Thing from Another Planet. The original story was called that. I don't differentiate it from the first one, but they have a bigger problem with not being able to differentiate the movie. The guy who directed a whole bunch of commercials before that, but he was Norwegian. And so he hired a bunch of Norwegian actors along with Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Joel Edgerton to be in the film. Because it's got to be hard making a prequel to a very popular movie. The movie has to end where the next movie begins. So your hands are kind of tied on doing certain things. So anyway, before we get into the movie, which I hadn't seen in over a decade, let's talk about this weird edition that came out. So Mill Creek is this company that used to be that company that would put like 4 movies on a DVD and you'd find it at Walmart and Kmart and stuff back in the day. They have grown into a company that like a few years ago got all the rights to the entire Ultraman series from Japan, and they've been releasing season after season and movie after movie, all of it. Some of it in Steelbook, some of it big collector's editions. Now, this is a company that really you could find some of their movies for $1 at the dollar store and things like that, and now they're producing real things. They have produced some TV shows that actually... They were picked on early on because their transfers were horrible because they were compressing a whole bunch of movies onto one disc, and they still do that from time to time. I recently picked up 4 of the bad Hellraiser movies because I wanted one of them, and you can't buy it separately. You had to get it in a 4 thing, and I was hoping it had 4 discs. No, 1 disc, 4 movies crammed on there. Ugh. Anyway, Mill Creek has always gotten a bad reputation for that, but over the last couple of years, they've started doing things that are worthy. Now, their Ultraman stuff is not 5 stars, but it's really good. They put together a whole bunch of extras. They have books that come with them. The transfers are okay, but the original films, they're not going to spend millions of dollars to restore those, are they? They were basically kid shows for the most part. But some of the other things they've got some big movies from Sony, from Warner Brothers, from other movie companies, and released decent versions of them. So out of nowhere in the middle of April was this version of 2011's Thing coming out in a Steelbook that was only available at Walmart. Okay. I do visit Walmart once or twice a month to stock up on box goods and process things, and I shop locally for most everything else. But when I'm in there, I do check the movies, and their movie selection here is usually pretty terrible. We will put out a handful of new releases. Some of the smaller new releases will never come here. Sometimes they'll come here later. Sometimes you'll find one randomly, and that's what happened here. This movie came out in the middle of April, right around tax time. If I had jumped on it that week, I could have ordered it off the website, but not only was it immediately not available in Walmart's anymore, it was not available on their website anymore. They had pulled the listing for it completely. You couldn't even look it up anymore. So I kind of forgot about it. I looked it up on eBay and people wanted $30 or more for it. And I'm like, it's a Blu-ray. One day it'll come out 4K maybe, and maybe I'll get it. I really don't have fond memories of the movie, but it was a really cool Steelbook, and I collect Steelbooks. So I'm in Walmart over the weekend. This is a month later. It's been out of print for a while. eBay prices are rising, and they're in the movie section, right in the middle. There's one copy, regular price, just sitting there. Just like it had come out that week, and they just put one out. No, just sitting there. Nobody knew what it was. Grabbed it, checked out with it. That and the other thing I bought, something for my car, neither one came up on the app saying they had it in stock. But I bought both of those things that day. I think for the car worked great, by the way. Fixed a problem without taking it to the garage. Anyway, it's a beautiful Steelbook. I've got pictures of it. I'll use one of the pictures in the podcast graphic for this. It really is a nice Steelbook with a clear slipcover. The artwork works with it. I've talked about that in some of the Lionsgate ones. It's a really nice Steelbook with a simple Blu-ray in there. The transfer is actually a little bit better than the original disc that was a universal disc back in the day. The soundtrack sounds about the same. It had some really good directional stuff. It's not Atmos or anything, but the 5.1 was solid, especially some of the skittering around in the back channels when the creature is running around the building and things like that. You could hear it all over the house. It was really cool. So anyway, it was interesting that I found a copy of this, and I debated it in the store. I'm like, well, I could always resell it. You know, it's going for more. Just buy it. But I'm a big fan of Steelbook, so I opened it up. It looks great. All right, I'll watch the movie. You know what? The movie holds up. Up until like the last few minutes, I thought it was great. So far we have a good transfer from Mill Creek, which is rare. We have great surround sound from Mill Creek, which is also rare. We've got a good score and a lot of practical effects, especially during they do a big autopsy like the first movie did. The director tries too much to basically follow the same storyline as the original thing for the most part. Hits a lot of the same beats. The big difference is, well, the monster's not sneaky anymore. In the first movie, you didn't get a good glimpse of it for a long time, and you never knew who it was. Well, they do play into that, but also the first time you see it, it grabs like 3 guys. And then we have a whole lot of tension for about an hour, and then when we get towards the finale, it's taking them out left and right. Boom, boom, boom. We got actors. That was it. We get down to all the last actors in just like 5 minutes. Done. They could have spread that out, did a little more with that story, maybe did a little less of what we did in the first one. What I do like about it, though, is they made everything look exactly like it was when we find it frozen in the previous movie, which is going to come after, so to speak, from the block of ice that the alien was in to the guy that slit his wrist at the end. And they don't even play up the final scene until during the post-credit scene, the scene that leads to the next movie, which they did it pretty perfectly, actually. And you know what happens after that. They weave some of the Enrico Morricone, whatever how you say his name. They weave some of the original soundtrack into the movie with Marco Beltrami's current score, which I think was actually great. But yeah, why the movie doesn't sit on most people's palates well, and I don't understand the hate, because for the most part, it's well made. It's a lot of practical effects, very little CG, and the CG is really good until the end. There's really no need for it to go where it goes at the end. They were just trying to do something bigger at the end, something to wow you and whatever. And yeah, it's a creepy monster and everything, but to just put the guy's face on it CG-wise and then have it split open, if they had taken a few more chances with this could have been great. And I know Universal, who had just come off doing a very good version of Dawn of the Dead, the same producers wanted to do something, and they enlisted the original producers of the thing to do this version of it. But give it a different name and let it stand on its own legs. Some of the best remakes or reboots or whatever are movies that do their own thing without paying too much homage to the original film. This one was too much of a slave to the original film, a little too much CG. A lot of people say that, but what else were they going to do? People are just not into the practical effects like they used to be, but there were quite a few practical effects in the movie. And from what I understand, there were a lot. They were planning to do the whole movie practical, but the movie studio balked and at the last minute wanted to do some CG. Most of the CG, except for the final monster, looks really good. I thought it was hard to tell. But again, I'm watching a Blu-ray, not a 4K, that the added resolution added. I do have the original thing in 4K, and it looks fantastic. All those practical effects look amazing. Anyway. So if you can find this and you're into collecting things, I don't know if this movie will ever get a 4K release. If Mill Creek got the rights to a Universal film and are releasing it in their own Steelbook, I doubt that anybody's going to put this on 4K at some point. But if you can find the Steelbook, it's quite the collectible for fans of the movie. The movie's okay. It much better than I remembered it, and to me now it is the sandwich with the John Carpenter original. I wouldn't mind watching this first and then watching the better John Carpenter movie after. They would play well like that. But yeah, if you can find the Steelbook, pick it up. Maybe resell it on eBay if you want to make some money. The Thing 2011 is available now. If you can find it, you might find it in your Walmart just walking through the movie section. Who knows? Scott Hamilton on ROCKFILE. Movie's not bad. Steelbook, 5 stars. I got more reviews coming your way. Thank you so much for listening. Have a spectacular day.